I'd say the big thing from what you were describing that I would really emphasize is that the pain of whatever you're currently doing needs to outweigh the risk of making that change and the risk of investing in learning the skill or like being shitty at something. Because making the leap from in person in like this training wheels environment where like a big box commercial gym is directly invested in your success because it draws them money as well. Once you remove all of that and it's entirely upon you, there is a risk of failure because you then have to be motivated enough to hold yourself accountable to do all the steps of, it's the same general premise as, okay, being a trainer versus becoming a gym owner. Well, you cease to be a trainer when you're a gym owner primarily because, Jesus Christ, you have to run a gym. Like there's so many things that go involved in that. When you make the leap to online, there is now infrastructure. You're your own genuine, even if it's just from a administrative perspective, you're a business owner, assuming, hey, everybody actually do it legit and like, you know, be a business, not just everything under the table. Like, let's be better. There are skills and there are pain points therein as well that you need to get good at that will help you get to the same level of success as you would be in a training wheels environment like the box gym. And when I say training wheels, that's not a disparaging remark. It's where more people, in my opinion, need to get a longer and more a lengthy time of experience is in that box gym setting. Essentially, as you described, like you need to cap yourself, grind to the point of hating the experience almost because it is so easy for you to maintain, but your hours are so saturated that it is a difficult work-life balance, if we're going to use that term. Up your price, saturate again, basically get to the point where it's mind-numbing and horrendous. It's your success is unthinking because when you make that leap, you will now have a new complement of skills that you have to develop. And you're going to want any and all of those things that were the meat and potatoes of your previous gig, being training humans and programming them, to be so unthinking that it is effectively negligible to no resource drain on your system when you're trying to figure out, okay, if I have to market myself, if I have to get onto the internet and figure out my branding or whatever I'm going to do to attract clientele, develop my funnel, find leads, et cetera, et cetera. You don't want to be having to invest a mental stock into, okay, how do I train this person for this goal? Like, no, you've done this so many times that you can do it blindfolded with your eyes closed. That's the big thing that I see in terms of, as we described, like the burn rate of young trainers in the industry. I did in person in a commercial gym combined for about 5 years before I ever made the leap into an online setting. And that involves 2 very successful runs within box gyms. I did my first iteration directly out of my undergrad, then went back to school, then came back to a box gym again and was highly successful the second time to the point of extreme burnout the second time. But at that stage, I had that cushion where I could sustain myself for a handful of months if I fell directly on my face. I had my system in place to start funneling clients towards an online presence. And I gave myself the opportunity to learn or get upright all the skills and infrastructure I would need to make that leap. But it wasn't I've done a single year in person. I get it. I've built my clientele base. And then what most people will do at that stage, if they fall on their face, is immediately try to convert online or immediately try to emulate the highly successful upright business of someone that's been doing it for maybe 5, 10, 15 years for the few that have been around that long. Like I was saying, the merchandise, the podcast immediately, everything aside from the baseline level of just finding people to train and training them, they diversify their quote unquote skill set and they just run themselves ragged, not actually focusing on the thing that's going to bring them the sustainability, which is humans. And it's exactly as you said, it's the allure of the fact that cost per unit time is dramatically in your favor when you convert to online if you can be successful. And that mathematical equation, like, okay, I need to find 20 to 40, maybe 50 humans to train on the entire internet. I have the entire internet to troll, not just this one building. Oh my God, that will be so. Yeah, it's definitely a much broader market share that you can cast your net, but you also need to be able to capitalize. And that's the thing that people don't have the skill set to do out the gate. And it takes way longer than they believe. So they make the jump too early, don't either have the cushion to develop the skills, or they just outright wash. So there's a couple of things there where do the thing in person until you're highly successful, and then do it longer than you think you have to really ingrain the fact that you need to make that jump. There has to be a necessity, not just a desire to.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And you mentioned something early on in that bit about risk. I think risk is an important part of this, especially when you're talking about someone that's working in a box gym setting. A lot of times there's that feeling of maybe you have to pay X amount to the gym to train there, or they're taking a certain percentage, and people get upset about that. But that gives you the luxury of never having to put yourself at risk, right? I think that's something that gets lost, especially in the gym setting. I think a lot of people that have the employee mentality, they don't understand what it takes to run a business, and that's why they're an employee, because it's safe, because there's no risk involved. And the thing about risk is that it's disproportionate to the reward if it pays off, right? The risk is fixed. The risk is, okay, I'm making 7-8K a month training in person. I'm not going to lose a ton of money moving online. It's incredibly cheap to start an online coaching business. And that's why people are so successful, because the overhead is almost non-existent compared to any other business that you can start. It's, okay, I have a Gmail account. Maybe you pay for like a Calendly subscription or like a G Suite account, but you realistically don't have to pay for anything to start coaching online. Like, you need a laptop and maybe a phone. Like that's the buy-in. The risk is almost non-existent. The risk is betting on yourself to the point where now you're willing to take a step back from that employment, that safe, that comfortable income, and earn your own money. And the thing about that, I think this is an important point too, and probably some of the advice I would give myself earlier in my career, is the money you make isn't inherently just going into your pocket. There needs to be a percentage of that you're going to reinvest in your business. So say you start with a laptop and an iPhone, and maybe you start to make a decent amount of money. Maybe you're break even with the amount you were making in person before. Now, don't just take all that money and use it the same way you would had you been in that same situation. Reinvest in your business. Buy yourself a nice camera, a nice microphone. Make some content. Like, invest your time in thinking about things that will be beneficial for you to grow your business. But even further than that, there are benefits which that percentage that your employer is taking that you will get from that. Things like you mentioned before, like especially in the States, like health insurance is a big one. It can be costly. And retirement accounts are a big one. That's something that, like, you can earn 10, 15 grand a month in person, but if you don't have those things set up, like, that can become very costly very quickly. Like, the number one cause of bankruptcy in the States is health-related incidents. So if you go to the ER, if you break your arm or you need a surgery, there goes all your savings. Now you're in debt. So something that the advice that I would have given myself earlier in my career, because I've been basically, since I earned any money, I've been working for myself, is to start a retirement account right away. Like a Roth IRA is a really safe, easy thing to do. You can go online, start one in probably 5 minutes with a Google search. Like, invest in your future. You don't want to work forever, and you want the money that you're making now to return even greater later on. So invest in retirement ASAP. Do that yesterday. Do that 5 years ago if you could. Like, talk to an accountant. Sometimes you can go back and fund a retirement account for previous tax years. Like, that's something that I think it gets overlooked a lot in this industry, because that's not a luxury that a lot of people have. They don't have like I live in the Silicon Valley, where, like, starting bonuses for some of the companies, like if we're talking Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, you're going to get 100K in stock. You're going to get a sick, like, 401k match, retirement plan. You're going to get all these benefits from your employer. You don't have that luxury when you're self-employed. So if you're making 10K a month, by the time you fund these things and you pay taxes, like, you're making maybe 6K a month, like maybe 6K a month. So, like, keep that in mind, that the gross income is not what you're going to net at the end of your paycheck. It's like anyone that gets a paycheck, like, you see the gross and you see all the things that get taken out of it, then you see the net. Well, you have to do that for yourself once you're self-employed. So anyone that's working for themselves, I would factor in these things, and I would go into it with that understanding that now you're responsible for being the one. Like, you took the risk. Yes, awesome. There's so much more earning potential when you do, but don't just take all that money and blow it. Take that money, reinvest it in your business, reinvest it in your future, so that you don't have to be taking 50 clients, even online, till the day that you die.